as we can to remain aggressive, to be aware of the opposition when they do roll the dice a little bit and roll forward as you do in those moments, to be safe and strong in contest and win the ball. We're not the finished product yet, and I've been saying that all year.
Oh, I think it's more mental, and reputations can be built. We learnt the reputation of Collingwood when they won the grand final. You can come back from nowhere, so the opposition starts to think, well, Collingwood are never at it. The Giants next year have got to actually build a reputation back that they won't crack, because the Swans cracked them in the last quarter and the Lions cracked them in the last 40 minutes.
And hard to recall a finals choke like it. Two demoralising losses in the last quarters. In fact, they lost the last three games, the Giants, in the end, on one of the flag favourites. And where do they go from here, and how did it happen?
Well, you look at the numbers the last 2 weeks, Hutchie, and numbers are one thing, but you see there, like points against, just absolute 78 points they've conceded, inside 50, scores from turnover. They're all numbers, but I think Adam Kingsley, I spoke today about, I'd be asking him the hard questions.
Like what?
Is it your game plan that doesn't allow for teams to run out games? Because it wasn't just for 2 weeks, it's happened way back when, which Lachie Whitfield spoke about earlier in the season. I'm asking, is it our lack of leadership? Why can't we, when momentum happens, good teams might concede 2 goals, we concede 6 and 7. Are we fit? Fitness will come into it as well, because players were running on the spot 2 weeks in a row in the biggest finals of all. So they're all the questions I'd be wanting to know if I'm a director or I'm a member of the GWS.
Yeah, all those questions. Yeah. And I think off-field, on-field, you look at everything, and I think there has been a little bit of an arrogance seep into the footy club, which is strange because Adam Kingsley is the furthest thing from arrogant. But they've pushed the boundaries, and Tom Green, I think, is in my focus because he needs to be the Bontempelli, the Cripps. He is the next captain of this footy club. He's the big midfielder inside. This is what he has said. He wants to be the best, or he believes he's the best player in the competition. Well, you're not. And don't go saying those things until you genuinely are. And even if you are, there's no way you're running around telling everyone you're the best player in the competition. So his last quarters against Sydney and on the weekend against Brisbane, he went missing, and maybe it's a fitness thing for him, but he needs to start carrying himself as an influential figure. And off the field, for the Giants, I'd just be turning down that level of arrogance that they've certainly had this year.
I admire all the players who have a crack and are in the game for a long time, but I think the Giants need to move past a guy like Lachie Keefe. Lachie Keefe shouldn't still be in the 22-23 for the Giants if they're to go on and be a premiership side
How's Riccardi feeling?
Yeah.
Or Brown?
Brown, that's right. Brown's kicked 7 in a game before. Lachie Keefe would never have got close to that. So, I'm not sure whether it's injuries or form or what, but 3 big bad misses at critical times for the Giants. So there's no point playing a guy forward when you can't trust him to go back and kick the 6 points when you need him to.
Now, as ecstatic as the Lions were with the win, I think they've got to review this game as hard as you possibly can. Not sure when they're reviewing the tape, probably tomorrow, but they just made critical error after critical error, and they won't get away with this against an organised Geelong side. So this is the co-captain of the footy club, Harris Andrews. 1-step kick, lazy to a 2-on-1, bang, that cost you a goal. You missed tackle there from Zorko, who was really ordinary. You will not get away with this against a Chris Scott-led Geelong at the MCG on the weekend. Look at the cough-up handballs inside here. Bang, you are gone. Those small forwards, it'll be Myers, it'll be Close, it'll be Mannett, they'll be away. Keep this one in Bailey. This costs a goal. You've got to take care of the football. I thought they were far too willing to just not hold on to it. Ball security was poor. The matchup with Jesse Hogan we'll get to shortly. This one, Lachie Neale. Give it up, bang. Briggs just runs around, no one goes near him. Snaps an easy goal. You'd be mortified if you watch this footage, and this is a team that's playing in a prelim final. So I really hope, as good as the win was, and as much as we all loved it, that they review that performance really hard.
Yeah, and Payne will get a big job. He was brave to get up and play, but I've seen a flaw in Payne. So look at him behind the goals, number 40, Payne there on Jesse Hogan. You've either got to have an eye on the ball and you've got to have an eye on your man. You've got to be doing both. Payne either watches the ball or he watches his man. He doesn't have one on either, and then he gets lost. And it's the reason Hogan kicked 5 goals on him. So that's one where he lacks touch. This one, so he's got his eyes on the ball, but he has no idea where his man is. Then he looks at his man, and then he often loses sight of where the ball is. So Dustin Fletcher was a marvel at it. He would position himself on an angle, and he'd know where his man is and where the ball is. And this one, he's all ball. So he's got no idea where Jesse Hogan is. And then he's got such fast feet that you're in trouble. So they get in behind you and they mark the footy. So that's something that the defensive coaches have to work on him to get better.
And it was interesting that Andrews didn't go to Hogan and that Payne did. And it was even more interesting he wasn't moved at three-quarter time, which ultimately worked out okay in the last quarter. Chris Fagan intimated before the game that, I don't know if I read this correctly, that they picked their own opponent. Let's have a listen to him before the game and again after.
Are you happy either way?
They can take whoever they want.
Yeah, rightio. So you'll just settle with whoever they
We're
want?
not going to get caught up in that. Yeah, well, I was happy for Harris to keep doing what he was doing. And to be honest with you, I'm a coach who trusts my players. I've done that since the day I arrived, and I think that can take you far. And the times to trust them sometimes when they're not going all that well, that's probably the time to do it.
Another preliminary final for Chris Fagan. You've got to make that point. And the trust in the players. Well, he said after the game privately that Cadman kicked 2 and the Jesse Hogan kicked 5. So last time it was 4 and 3. So keeping Cadman quiet was, I mean, I'm not justifying it.
Yeah, no.
But it's an extraordinary way of coaching. Let's just see how they go this weekend.
He is backed his
So
players
who do you put on Jeremy Cameron then? Do you put Leicester on?
I think it'd be Starcevic myself. That's who I would put. I wouldn't be trusting Harris Andrews or Payne on him. But if I was the coach, I'd be having a say.
Are you critical? Because I think it's one of the reasons he's a good coach, though, Fagan.
I think exactly right.
Yeah.
It's hard because I think he's been very generous to players like Eric Hipwood and Rayner over the journey where he continually picks them in the side, where I would have dropped them 2 weeks ago. But you'd have to say at times that has worked. Not sure it's working.
A few weeks ago, you were very harsh, and rightly so, about Joe Danaher at the end of a game. He gets the dollars, he's got to be the man.
Yeah, I don't know if I was... I just said this is the reason he'll never be a superstar in the game.
He was a superstar on the weekend.
Yeah, he was in the last
and he was a superstar in the grand final last year.
Lordo said similar with his finals record, that maybe he is a superstar. Maybe I've been hard on him, but I think he can be even better. I don't want to see him running around the back, and I'd be coaching that still hard in his game. And just with Brisbane, they're so talented, but maybe one day it's just going to absolutely light up for them. They're small forwards. They were pretty ordinary on the weekend. I think Cameron, Rayner and Bailey have really got to lift their work rate this week and be involved. Well, this is the output for such a talented group of players. Now, Geelong have nowhere near the talent in their small forward line as this group do, but they deliver far more with their output. So that battle this Saturday between those two small forward groups, with Brisbane having more talent, will be fascinating.
And my final spotlight, and I'm looking at where the win is for the Brisbane Lions to beat and expose Geelong, and I'm still not sold on the small backs. So can those small forwards get a hold of them? So they're wonderful small forwards. They're talented. I love Zach Guthrie. He's been brilliant for a while. But Jed Buse, Collar Jasny and Young Humphreys, that's the area I think Brisbane could potentially get a hold of them.
You like Brisbane this weekend?
I think they're a big chance, yeah.